Taylor.
Yes. Hi.
You look nervous.
I'm not nervous. I feel like I'm like giddy to just like talk about everything
Right.
because I have so much to talk about. I just feel like a lot of my work is just so much of me just on Instagram, and I'm I'm naturally a shy person,
Uh,
so I don't really get to tell people what I'm thinking. I don't think they know either. So
right,
I
right.
think this is like a really good time for me to explain everything.
Where
Yeah.
well, I always ask my guests how they doing today. So how are you doing today?
I'm feeling good.
Mhm,
I've been feeling like really content or whatever, like with my life right now.
mhm,
I just feel like I'm trying to realize everything. I'm trying to figure it out. Like I feel grounded. Like everything is just kind of clearing up for me. Like a smoke screen has definitely lifted. I feel like
mhm.
I'm just like stepping into a good portion of like who I am right now.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. It's crazy. I know you like, damn, Aaron's interviewing me. It's crazy.
I know, like, mind you, I used to like be so nervous to talk to you at one point. Like,
uh,
wow, I was sending professional emails, remember?
yeah, I
And
remember for
now look at
Bodge.
this.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was like, somebody emailing me like
Yeah, I was
this,
sending my
like
portfolio, so professional jargon,
uh
and look at us now,
nah, for
the
sure.
homie.
Nah, like when you reached out to me, I was just like, oh yeah, her work is it's good. It was
Oh,
good, and we gained a relationship. You did one of my one of my shoots for Bodge, my brand, and
yeah.
and it was good. I was like, okay, and then I was, you was willing to like learn,
Mm-hmm.
you always call me your mentor, but I'm just like, don't call me that. I'm getting old. Don't do that.
Please, please, because
Nah.
during the shoot, I'm like really open to feedback. I
Hmm.
try to be as receptive as possible because you
Hmm.
really can't grow without it. So
Right.
when I was getting like that one-on-one time, because I am self-taught, I never really had someone instructing me at any point.
Right.
So it's like whenever I can get it, I'm like, oh, I want to listen. So
Right.
when you
Right.
told me, I had no problem at all.
Right. Right. Nah,
Yeah.
it was good. It was a good day. We did our thing, and then location scout and everything. He was like, "Oh
Mm-hmm.
shit, like this crazy." Um, but nah, this is I will always want to interview you because you're such a dope person.
Oh, thank you.
You're such a amazing soul. I feel like every time you're like a sponge for knowledge, and I love people like that. And I love seeing. I always tell people, I always want to see women into this world, in the photography world, and especially Black women on that. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So once you always like, Aaron, I need advice for this, what it is. I'm like, oh yeah, let's do it because
Mm-hmm.
I definitely want to. I always wanted to see like um Black women's POV in photography, and that's why I like Renell and what's it's a couple other photographers top of my mind. I'm having a brain fart, but
Yeah.
uh female photographers that it was just like, yo, like this is dope, especially
Yeah.
documenting Black culture, in
It's
another
important.
POV. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like your work is there, is getting there as well too.
Thank
You know what I'm saying,
you.
and the way
Glad
you
to
document
hear.
um people of color as
Mm-hmm.
well too. So that's dope. That's dope. But okay, so we here. For the people that don't know who you are, introduce yourself. Who is Taylor Mckie?
So I am a photographer. I'm here in South Florida. I travel back and forth between Broward and Miami. It's a thing here. You say you're from Miami, but you live in Broward. So I just say South Florida to be general.
That's real. That's
So
real.
yeah, I'm a photographer. The bulk of my work really comes from me just redefining luxury. I made an idea when I was like in college, just in my room alone and bored. And it was from one photo shoot, and it was called On Cloud Nine. And it was just all about the hype between luxury and like how cool it looks, but what can it be outside of just logos? Because I know like Dapper Dan, he just really just redefined it during that time. It was like that logo mania, it was dope, it was fly. But I'm thinking, but what are we doing now?
Right.
Because this idea came out, not even, it came out in high school. And I remember I used LV, I cut it out because I was like really big into collages back then.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I love this luxury stuff. Like, this is what I need. I love it. But then I just thought, but we're in a renaissance right now. That was when I really found my calling, like my book back here, The Black Vanguard. That's when I first got that book, and I said, luxury isn't what it used to be anymore. We're kind of exploring a different
Right.
path with it. And then that's when I took my work to say, well, luxury to me isn't just clothes and stuff. I wasn't really raised that way. I love it now. Like I love being flat. But it's like I'd be thinking like luxury is something you can't have. It's not easily attainable.
Right.
But so me, luxury is those smaller moments that we forget and we don't really get to have in our time. That's why I take such a big inspiration from my family because there's so many memories of me and like my friends. So that's a luxury to me, especially as a Black woman, because a lot of the experiences I've had, a lot of people before me couldn't have. So
Right.
I've had projects about water. And even then, I found out recently that, which is complete news, it's crazy that South Beach was a sundown town in the
Oh,
70s.
you didn't know that?
I
That's
didn't
crazy.
know.
Yeah.
I thought maybe the
We
40s.
couldn't even go to like I knew about that because of
Yeah.
my peoples. I'm from Liberty City, so you know, a lot of like the OGs would tell me like,
Mhm.
we couldn't go past the beach, and if we did, we had to have like a card to let us know like, oh, we working over here. You was only allowed to
Yeah.
work there, and that's it.
So it's like that is a luxury for us to be able to enjoy it, you
Mhm.
know? People
Mhm.
don't think of it that way. We have these clothes, but everyone has them. It may be hard to get, but you can get them.
Right.
But
Right.
you can't get that moment back, and people before you can't even experience that. So
For sure.
that's
Not
why.
trying to digress,
No,
but
it's fine.
what 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 was that moment like? Because you talked about how when you first heard, when you first seen that book and
Yeah.
how that started. Like, what was that moment like when you first seen that book, the new Black Vanguard behind you? What
It
was that
was
moment like?
it was surreal because
Hmm.
I love magazines. Like as you can tell, I have a book collection, but that book collection started from seeing my favorite photographers' names in these magazines.
Right.
But a lot of times in editorials, you don't really get a huge say so creatively. So I feel like the book kind of made me understand, like, see their language, because the book is made in chapters based on the art, like the photographers.
Right.
And so I saw each one of them, I saw their style one by one. And I was thinking, oh, so this is the story they're trying to tell. And then you kind of piece it back to what they're hired to do. And I'm saying, oh, like these were the little crumbs they were leaving for me. But it like led to such a big project, which is the Black Vanguard. Like Antoine Sargent did an amazing job curating that book. I mean, when I first saw it, it just felt like this is me. Like
Right.
this felt right. It felt like every experience I possibly had, I could have had. It was in front of me. It was
Hmm.
like it was my brother, it was me, it was my mom. It's like so many different components were just thrown at me, and I said, "Yeah, this is it. Like this is what I want to keep doing."
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So I want to dive into your childhood.
Okay.
Um, what was your childhood like, and how did it shape you as a creative person?
Oh, okay. I actually love my childhood. I just have so many fond memories of it.
Right.
It's just such an explorative time for me because a lot of people don't really have this, but my parents actually nurtured my passions. Like I was always creative in some way, shape, or form. Like whatever I was really into, my parents actually were like, "Okay, you can do it. I'll buy whatever you need to do." So I was into clay making. I used to sew. I used to do fashion design. I wanted to be like a zoologist, so I went in the backyard and picked up tadpoles, and they hooked up a tank for me. So they really let me just figure it out. So I think them doing that just had me like to experiment so much with so many things. There's so many, so many links were taken for me to just do what I really want to do, which is kind of crazy because they're confused why I'm an artist now.
Right.
I'm thinking, well, you
I,
took me to art shows.
yeah.
I mean, my dad even took me to Art Basel for the first time, and
Oh
I
wow.
saw Canadian Wiley, and that's when I was like, oh, so like I can do this. This could be me. That I could be in this huge mecca of like
Yeah.
art. So now that they see me pursuing it, but whatever, that's neither here nor there. But it influenced me so much because look at me now. It's just I take so much because it was such a happy time for me. I I like to pull like that emotion out. I'm really big on emotion in my work because that's what
I could
makes me
see
unique.
for sure.
Yeah, and it's like I'm really big on not having to show like the violence, like the sad parts of being black or like the black experience because like that is our reality, you
Hmm.
know?
But
And
the joy elements of
yeah,
it for sure.
and it's like we don't have to constantly have that in our faces. I want to escape in my work. I want to live in that moment that felt good for me.
Exactly.
So
Nah, for sure. I feel like that's I mean, that's majority of what gravitates me to a lot of honestly that really at least from my perspective, like for photography, when I do see certain people's work, that's why I like the Vanguard, like you say, that's
yeah,
the Vanguard, all those different elements because it just show, even though it's fashion photography, but it's showing black people in a whole nother element. It shows us in
yeah,
a whole different world. That's why certain artistries, like all the other stuff is cool because I'm somewhat documented, the hood stuff, but
yeah,
it's just showing enlightenment. But when it comes down to like other things, it just shows us in a depicted in another way.
yeah.
That's why art is important. I feel like art is it's more important. I feel like it's the most important thing throughout the whole world. I feel like creative
Mhm.
people runs the world.
We do, but they're not gonna acknowledge it.
Yeah, yeah. And then, it gets deeper than that. I don't want to be long winded,
No,
but
you're good. Like you
go
made a
ahead.
good point. You have to show what's real, and that's why I love your work because we see that part of Miami that nobody talks about, and that's another discussion.
That's another discussion.
But that's real. But it's like I'm not. I like that wasn't my experience growing
Yeah,
up,
for
you know.
sure, for sure.
So it's
And that's
like,
okay though.
yeah, exactly. And I just feel like if we can just have like that 1 second of just a good, happy, warm feeling,
Yeah.
that's and I did my job, you know.
You are doing the job. I
Yeah,
feel like it's one of those type of situations where instead of us being depicted of um ghetto only and
yeah.
black women just depicted as I don't want to say it, but a certain type of way,
No,
you
I
know what I'm
know.
saying? Like,
Yeah.
but like your work don't give me that, and that's why I love it. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? You just showcasing us in a whole nother light, man. Like, oh, best believe we're regular people too, type shit.
Exactly.
Like we want to
Exactly.
experience certain things. But very curious. Were you always interested in photography, or did it come later in life? I think you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, so I wasn't always interested. I just dabbled here and there. I always pursued things. I never actually held on to it. And it was never an anchor.
Right.
That's why I just had so many interests that started, but they never really led to anything. But I will say magazines just kept being a constant for me. I
Right.
mean, I had highlights when I was 5, and then I had a teacher that brought wedding magazines for me because I really wanted to be into fashion design and be into making wedding dresses. And so, but looking back, I'm starting to realize I just like the pictures a lot, and I was just trying to recreate them by drawing them. And so, my dad had a camera, and he let me pick it up here and there. But then Instagram came out, and then this is when I was just you're just throwing so many images at once, and then you had Tumblr, and I just saw all these different photographers, and I was like, oh. What is that? Like this is not a phone
Right.
doing that. And then I saw a camera, and
It sound like my story. It
okay,
sound
we're
like my story.
twins.
Tumblr definitely changed the aspect on a
It
lot of things
did.
for sure.
And I saw the camera and I saw these like people just doing cool stuff with it. And even YouTubers started using it. And I said, okay, there's quality behind what I can get. And
Hmm.
so I begged for a camera for Christmas and I got a Nikon. And I was like, okay, boom.
Yo, you my twin for real because that's how my story. But instead of Christmas, it was my birthday,
Oh,
and my
really?
first camera
Okay.
was a Nikon D3100. But I believe yours was 3200, right?
32, so I'm right after
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I was like, okay, great. So I just took my brother and we mixed yogurt and turmeric together to like make just like makeup things that I saw in a
Right,
magazine, wanted to like recreate
right,
it. But when I took that very first photo, I said, oh, okay, this is it. And
right.
I kept doing it because it was such a great way for me to interact with everybody. Because, like I said, I'm shy. I
Hmm.
may not come off as shy right now, but I probably won't approach someone at first.
Right,
So it was just a nice way for me to like to just connect with people I already knew, and just it was so easy just to ask them, "Can you model for me real quick?" And they're
right.
open to it. They're like,
For
"Yeah,
sure.
sure," you know. And I just realized, you know what, maybe I can be consistent with this one thing, and then I just realized just staying consistent with it, I just fell in love with it. I just every single year I just learned something new, and I just keep going, and I'm like, this is the one.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Nah, that's yeah. We twins for real because that's kind of like how I kind of started,
Yeah.
that's crazy. Just hearing that. Um, but when you picked up that camera, like, and you took those pictures, what was that moment? Or yeah, what was that moment like for you? Like, you saw the results, you learning, you just,
Yeah.
you know.
I'm very sentimental.
Uh-huh.
I hold on to stuff. I have my 5th grade ticket to Universal for like the end of year trip. I
Right.
love just being able to hold on to a memory. I think that's so important because I lost my grandmother when I was 7, like my
Mhm.
granny, and I was young, and then that does something to you. But then I think at a young age, I learned how important it is to have a memory of someone
Right.
and to just keep something alive. So when I took a picture and then I did it from my perspective, not something that someone else did for me, I was thinking, "Oh, I can actually, like, make my own story.
Right.
I can capture this what how I remembered it," you know?
So would you say you developed that skill to like, oh damn, I'm able to tell a story within an image?
Yeah, like,
Mm,
cause a lot of, if not all my images really come from a personal experience, whether it's an actual setting or it's just a feeling I had or something I saw.
right.
It's something I went through at some point, and so when I held that camera, it was like, I can freeze something in time and I can go back to it, and not to mention I'm a huge Harry Potter fan.
Right.
So in the movies, they have, in the newspapers, they have something where the pictures move. That's how I think of an
Oh
image.
wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like it's frozen, like, it's one picture, but
Mhm.
that picture to me has a smell, it has a temperature, it has a feeling. It's everything at once, and so I'm like, "Oh, I have the power to do this." Like,
Right.
it felt good.
Right.
Felt really
Right.
good.
Yeah, and by you speaking about that, as far as like you gaining the skills for storytelling,
Mhm.
how did you end up developing your eye for photography in the beginning? And were there any early tips or lessons that helped you?
I feel like what really helped me was really just finding inspiration
Mhm.
because I needed a starting point.
Right.
So my very first starting point, this was 'cause I used to collect magazines. I went to Barnes and Nobles and I saw ID and I grew an
Were
addiction.
were you, knowledgeable about ID prior, or that was your
Not
first
really.
time?
That was, like, my very first time
Okay.
because Barnes& and Nobles just opened, and they had more international magazines,
Right.
and I'm always looking for the other like, the next big one or, like, just something different.
Mhm.
So, I saw ID, and lo and behold, Tyler Mitchell was in it, and I said, "Okay," because that was, like, my very first person that I saw that made a picture. I was like, "Oh, like, that's good." Like,
Right.
that's what really clicked with me.
Right.
I remember that name, and so I'm like, I needed a starting point. And so I found ID, and their whole thing is just kind of letting new creative breathe a bit, give them like that breathing room to just create what they want to make.
Mhm.
And so I saw that I just needed a starting point. I think every creative needs that. You need to know what you want to be inspired by. Because if you don't, you're gonna make what you see. That's cool, but
Facts.
what can you do with the camera? So I use that as a base to just say, okay, how can I do this? And then I go and like I shoot something. I'm like, okay, but I'm gonna do it this way, how I want to do it. And so when I had that base, I just learned to kind of find my references, find the research, find what I'm looking for,
Right.
and then I'll just take a small element from it, whether it's like a lighting technique or just a feeling in general. It's like I'll take that and then it just builds a foundation going up because I see how their story is being told through the image. So I'm seeing what elements they took, especially after hearing interviews, because I
Right.
love hearing people talk. And
Mhm.
so it's like you put two and two together and you say, "Oh, that's why you made this." And then
Right.
I'll do that, and then it just kept going and going, and then it just leveled into what it is now.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Like, yeah, it's like 'cause I feel like the lessons you do learn is subconsciously.
Mhm.
Because I feel like probably at that moment for you, while you were shooting, it was just
Yeah,
more like, hmm, I seen this frame like this. Let me try
right.
this, and then you just start. And then honestly, the rule of thirds, you just subconsciously do it because of the
Exactly.
framing and everything that you see in images that you see in magazines or books and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So you gain that knowledge.
Like, honestly, I didn't learn about the rule of thirds until maybe 4 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I got my first camera when
Yeah.
I was in high school.
Right.
And I really didn't learn the technical stuff just yet. I was just having fun. I was
Right.
just telling my
Right.
friends, "Come through, like, let me just take a picture real
It
quick."
look cool.
Yeah, it just
Yeah.
looks fun.
Right.
I didn't really take it seriously, I like to say I started my journey in 2021
Mhm.
because that's when I was really like, okay, here's where we're gonna start.
Pandemic. That was
Yeah,
during pandemic. I
exactly.
I feel like
After
that was
pandemic,
probably a good time for you too.
because I was just able to research. I was able
In the
to just, and
house
you know
and
what I mean. I was cozy. I was
right,
just sitting here. I had a hoard of magazines. I had my books as much as I had at that time, and all I had to really do was just look through them or watch my favorite movies. And I take a lot of inspiration from
right,
movies too.
right,
And I was just thinking, you know what? Maybe it's time for me to just really sit down with this and just work with it.
right.
So,
That leads me to my next question. When did you know that photography wasn't just a hobby, but something that you wanted to pursue more seriously?
mm. So like I said, I was just picking up my camera, getting my friends out, but I always had a habit of just stopping, and that's what happened. It was just a constant pattern of starting up, feeling really good about what I dropped, and
Right.
then stopping, and then it just kept stumbling and stumbling, and I was just
What made
thinking,
you what made you think
"Mhm,
you kept on stopping? My bad to cut you
no,
off,
you're
but what
good."
made you I'm curious, what made you continue like to stop, go, stop and go?
I'm a perfectionist,
Right.
and so I would always just find a reason not to do it. It
So
was
would you say you was hard on yourself?
Yeah, I would be like, "Well, this didn't come out right, so we need to do every single thing right next time. We're gonna research."
Right.
But then that research just turns into fear, like, "Oh, I don't know what that word means. I don't
Right.
know how to do this. I don't know how to do that." And then I'm thinking, "Well, this person won't work for me. They won't work with me because I didn't have a budget." So I was just reaching out to people I liked on Instagram, like, "Will you shoot with me?" And then
It's
I
crazy how you did that to me. Yeah.
and I would just be lurking on people's pages, but then I'm thinking, "Oh, they wouldn't want to work with me. I don't
Mhm.
got it like that." But then it's crazy because every time I would release a photo or like show someone like you're really good, keep going. But I'm thinking, nah, like that ain't it.
You
That's
my
not the
twin
one.
for real, man. I remember them days. I used to go through that too. It's
So
crazy.
I don't know exactly what photo it was, but I just feel like that year I was in high I went back to college because that was after the lockdown. We're finally able to go back
Right.
to the
Right.
dorms.
Right.
And it just was just the moment I said, you know what? It's my life now. That's when it clicked. I was actually in charge of what I wanted to do. And I said, maybe we can just keep going. Maybe we can actually make this work.
Right.
What if you just applied yourself? Because I'm pretty ambitious, but I didn't have anywhere to place that ambition. You
Right.
know, I just had this desire to just want to do something bigger. I've always felt that way. I always feel like I'm always meant to do something big, and not to sound conceited, but I feel like I'm really talented.
Mhm.
So I
Nah,
just felt
you're not
like
conceited. You just being honest. Yeah.
yeah, so it's like why would I not nurture this one thing that was given to me and I'm so good at?
What kept you going? Like, what was
Mhm.
that moment where you was like, you know what, Taylor, I'm telling yourself
Yeah,
really that I'm tripping. I'm not gonna stop. I'm gonna continue this. I'm not gonna stop no more. This is what it is.
cuz after every picture I just kept getting better.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Well, if you have if you keep releasing one photo
Right.
once every 6 months, what can you do if you're shooting 3 times a month for 6 months? What will your quality be like then?" And so I was just thinking, each time you shoot, you're just going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
So why not see where it can take you?
Right.
You know, and I also that was also the time I heard my Dark Beautiful Twisted Fantasy by Kanye, and it's just such a powerful album, and it just made
Facts.
me feel like I can actually achieve something so great. And then that just kind of led into a wormhole about learning about Virgil and then all the other creatives that were surrounding him and what he was doing. And I just thought, because you grow up thinking, especially like coming from a Jamaican household, from African American household, there is no hope in the arts. There is
Right.
no
For
hope in,
sure. For
having a
sure.
career that way.
Especially when it comes down to parents. For sure.
Exactly. And
Right.
then ironically, a lot of my cousins are creatives too. Oh, that's another thing. I have a lot of family members that are very creative. I have a cousin of mine, he was a musician, and I looked up to him so much and I was like, I
It's
want to
always the
do
cousins. It's
that.
always the cousins.
Yes, they're
Yeah.
so cool cuz I'm the middle one. I come from a huge family. We have a picture taken of the second generation or third generation, I don't know which one I'm in, but we had 21 of us, and we're the cousins of the cousins. And it was like one of them, he inspires me so much to this day, and I just saw what he was doing and I said, I want to do what he's doing, you know? And now it's kind of crazy. It kind of manifested it because now I'm like cool, all his friends now. I'll be like cooling. And I'm like, oh, you know, da 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 da. They're like, oh yeah, I know him. That's my cousin, by the way.
Right, right.
And so it's I was just kind of chasing this thing of just making it stick. I think that's just the answer because I was just told I couldn't do it. So I wanted to just prove them wrong, and I did do it.
Right,
Mhm.
right. You gaining that repetition of, like, okay, instead of just doing one releasing one picture every 6 months or whatever the case may be, and into like the 3 pictures a month, or doing photo shoots 3 times a month.
Yeah.
How did you begin to develop your signature style in photography?
That's a really great question because I always thought I didn't have one, you
Right.
know, until I had my solo show last year. And then I just kind of took a step back and I said, oh, everything matches. And mind you, these are just all from different shoots. And it
Right.
wasn't even intentional at that point because I was reached out to do an art show. It didn't really work out, but then I just kind of took it over.
Hmm.
And I just thought I need a theme. That's really important to having a show. You need a central theme. And I noticed, well, you do a lot of water shoots. Let's just base it on that. That's your life. You grew up on the
Right.
beach.
Right.
And then I just kind of pulled photos from one shoot from another and then I put them together and I said, you're developing a style. It just became so like clear to me and it wasn't even intentional. That's the crazy part. It just sort of fell into my lap and it said, "Oh, this is what you do." So I never consciously created a style. I think it just
Happen.
made itself. Yeah.
Right. Right.
There I wish I had an answer cuz I want to know it myself, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
But it's like it was meant to be for me, you
Right.
know?
Right.
Cuz I I love my personality. At first I was pretty scared to show it to people, but now I let my personality show through my work and I had that softness to it. I
Right.
had that that studious feel cuz I like to take a lot of my surroundings and incorporate it to a picture
Right.
cuz actually funnily enough, Joel Merowitz, I went to a talk of
Oh,
his.
really? I got a couple of his
Yeah.
books.
Oh, amazing. Hearing him talk put a lot into perspective for me. And he was talking about how a lot of his photos hinged on a single subject. But then he started talking about after that, outside of going from a single subject, he wanted to talk about everything in that image, what was going on that will pull everyone in. And I'm very meticulous. I notice every detail.
Right.
And I notice a lot of my pictures not only focuses on the main person, but everything around it because it inspires it. So, you know.
It's crazy you say earlier, you was like the personality in
Mhm.
your work. Us as photographers, I was I with one of the interviews with Josh.
Yeah.
I was asking him, I was like, yo, like we really have like our personalities is through our images because
Yeah.
us as photographers, we don't like being in front of the
We
camera or nothing.
don't.
We very shy people. I'm like a lot of people don't know like I'm very shy. I
Yeah.
grew up shy.
Mhm.
So it's just like we just want to put our work and then just go in the cave.
I know, that's all I wanna do, like, please.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting that you say that because I when I'm thinking about looking at your work, that gives me that. Like
Mhm.
even because I was at that show, at your show last
Yeah.
year, and it was really about water. I just seen a lot of blues in your work,
Mhm.
and that makes sense. And just um hearing you talk about like you growing up around the beach, that put it in perspective. So that's interesting that you said that.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, it just felt because I always people always where are we gonna shoot at? And I would think, I don't know, the beach. The beach
Mhm.
is nice. I like
Right.
it there.
Right.
And then you're going to Hollywood Beach. Not only do you have a beach, but you have a boardwalk, you have the
Right.
nice hotels, that part of South Florida that's disappearing right now, the colorful homes and that whole art
Deco.
deco. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That really cool part that we don't really photograph a lot. I'm thinking, well, why don't we just shoot it here?
Mhm.
And it's it's so natural to me to be around things like that, to have the color, to have that modular style. It just it just comes out into everything I do. So
Right. Right. So I want to tap in more I still want to tap in more in your early stages.
Okay.
What challenges did you face in the early stages of your photography career, and how did you work through them?
So the challenges I feel like I had the most was lighting because it's such a it can be complex but it can be simple. I
Right,
think that's what makes it a hard thing to do because what I said earlier, a lot of my inspiration, a lot of my groundwork really came from just looking at photos that I really liked. But then it became a matter of how do they light this? Because that is what photography is. It's just a whole bunch of light.
for sure.
So I was thinking, was this all natural light? Did they have maybe a flash there? Were they using a softbox? And I was just trying to figure out ways in which how to get that without having the budget to have a whole bunch of equipment. That's really big. So in the beginning, when trying to figure out this lighting, I was using desk lamps. I
Okay.
actually had a photo shoot with someone,
Wow. That's how you
and
started for real.
yeah, like I had a friend of mine. She was in my room. I plastered the whole wall and blue and white photos of butterflies. I had a whole production in my room, but then it became a matter of what light are we going to use. So I had two desk lamps from Walmart, and I just directed her on how to go around my model,
Right.
and those pictures came out amazing.
Right.
But then it's thinking, okay, now that I'm outside, what is a bounce? What is this negative feel everyone's talking about? So then I just kept shooting, but I wasn't getting the
The
work that
lighting that you
yeah, I
wanted.
didn't get the
Yeah.
light. And it
Yeah.
was just something is missing. But then I started finding YouTubers like Willem Verbeck.
Oh
Amazing.
my god.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
He saved
He's
me.
him. It was another dude too before him, because at the
Mhm.
time, because they predominantly film photographers,
Yeah.
there wasn't no YouTubers really documenting like
Exactly.
film. Well, we're not talking about film photography right now, but
Mhm.
we're gonna eventually talk about it. But those they were. I mean, prior to them, it was nobody talking about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I had to
or just
basically guess.
tutorials and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just guessing. I would watch movies and there will be scenes where they'll be shooting this like a photo shoot and I'll
Right.
pause it and then I'm writing down what they had. I'm a big journal person, so I would write down in my journal the type of light I think they would use. And I got a strobe for my brother for Christmas one year and I used it. I said, okay, I'm gonna move it over here. And then it became a matter of I don't want to be outside anymore. I want to go to the studio because I need to start practicing
Right.
because another challenge I reached early in my career was what work do I need to create to get noticed? Because I noticed a lot of the people that were getting hired that were in these spaces I wanted to be had such a diverse portfolio of work. And it wasn't just on the beach, it wasn't just in a park. They were in studios, they were in
Right.
rooms. So I had to figure out how to light different things. How do I act in this location? So I went to a studio and I rented it out for 2 hours and I was just playing around in there. I had no idea what I was doing. I just went in there, I was pressing buttons and I saw like a general tutorial on a light. And I said, okay, I guess the number goes up is brighter, the number go down is lower. And I just took my homegirl with me. I said, can you just model for me, please? She was at the time, she was really open to just doing whatever I asked. I said, sure. And I was just playing around with it because lighting is so much fun too. Now that I actually understand it,
Right.
it makes so much sense now. I have fun with it. I be thinking, I need this grim, I need this, I need this negative fill here. And I'm getting to that skill now where I can actually generally guess what they're using
Hmm.
and then I'll do it and I think, oh, I think I figured it out. Like I have the equation now. So that's a really big challenge that and I think a lot of us face so early in our careers.
I think in the early stages, because I used to be like that too. Like
Yeah.
I'd be like, I used to like trying to get into it and
Mhm.
figure it out with lighting, and then I'll just run away from it because I'll just be discouraged,
Yeah.
and you just like, but why is my work not? You just start to feel like my work is not good enough. But then once you start to
Exactly.
learn and learn and learn, I was like, oh yeah, it becomes more simpler.
It does,
Yeah, yeah,
because a lot of the photos I shot, one a lot of my favorite ones are natural light,
right,
but then I learned the settings of the camera. And another one of my cousins, he's a photographer, and I would beg him. I say, "Please teach me your ways," because he went to school for it. He does work now, even in New York for it now. And I was just begging him, "Please, like, what do I do with my camera? I have it. I don't know what I'm
right,
doing," because I was just shoot on the preset modes, like
yeah,
portrait mode, aperture mode, and he said, "Learn manual, and you'll have it." And I said, "Okay, I'm gonna learn manual." So I switched that module over to
Game
the
changer.
M, exactly, and then natural light wasn't so monotonous for me anymore. Just
Hmm.
changing my settings got me the results I really needed, and I think that was another thing. Learning your settings was so important because
Hmm.
if you're dependent on aperture mode, it's not telling you much. You're not able to like judge the shutter speed
Right.
or the f-stop,
Right.
whatever. And like learning those little things changed the image for me. It showed me I
Correct.
can make it whatever I want it to be, even when the light's not exactly what I want it.
And then eventually you start to understand natural light is cool,
Hmm.
but for certain situations, but then you start to understand, oh no, artificial light is enhance the image even
It does.
more. Because I used to be like
It
that, but
does.
then you got it with natural light. You start to realize the sun. You can't shoot at 12 o'clock because the sun is above you, and it creates shadows
Yeah. Looks
under your.
harsh.
So it's like even like we feel like we're going to school right now, but I'm not gonna go
Mhm.
into too much of detail. I go on and on with
Yeah.
that, but yeah, you understand like with natural light versus artificial lights, it's both good, but you gotta look at the light as the sun and
Yeah.
where the shadows come into place, and then you start to understand too is advancement of different light settings and stuff like that.
Exactly.
People will have like 5 lights.
I I watched something with Annie Leibovitz. There's a master class,
Yeah,
and
I actually seen it too. Yeah.
so I watched the preview of it. I didn't buy it, but I saw the
Mhm.
preview, and I was thinking this is just simple. No, she had five lights here. She
Mhm.
had this board up. She had this panel. She had this reflector. She had a fan,
Right.
and that light turned to such complicated, you know, setups. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe you can warp it so much, and then it just enhances the image to get exactly what you want it to do.
Right.
Because cameras, they do exactly what you tell them to do if you
Mhm.
just have the equipment. And so I can do whatever I want essentially at any time of the day if you just know how to set it up.
Right.
And I love fighting for that. The more I dive into it, I still do research to this day, just trying to
Same.
figure it out.
Same.
Because it's just such an interesting concept. You never know, because something can be really simple. It can be
Right.
so
Right.
simple. Because I've been really big into like 80s recently, 80s inspiration, and they didn't have those huge setups that we see now. They
Mhm.
just had one
Like
octagon.
one of those
Yeah, a
lamps and stuff.
lamp. That's it. Even
Mhm.
sometimes even continuous light and a tripod, and they called it a day.
Right.
But they have some of the most iconic images.
And they shot film, so but
Exactly.
in order for them to like really like know,
Mhm.
like if the lighting was good, they shot Polaroids, and that's why Polaroids was very important,
Yeah.
at those times. But but as I learned over time, I'm not sure you know this. I'm pretty sure you do. Um, Majority of these photographers that got those lights, they pretty much have lighting assistants that just do it for them, and they just take the picture.
I can't wait till I get to that point. I just want to show someone I want this, and
Hmm.
I just show up and they do it. I remember I had one of my biggest shoots this year, and I was there and I was working with another photographer, but I had the chance to shoot just to get my feet wet because I've
Right,
never been on a set that big.
right,
And that was my first time working with a gaffer and a digitech. And they passed me the camera, and it was hooked up. 'Cause I mainly shoot film, so it was already a foreign world for to have a camera like that was digital, ready to go. And I was shooting it, and then I said, "Oh, this needs to be a little brighter." I'm reaching to change it. They said, "Oh wait, no, we have people for that." And then I saw the digitech just typing something in, and boom, the settings are changed. And I said, "Oh my gosh,
yeah,
I
yeah,
want more of this." So
yeah,
I can't wait till the day comes and as my career progresses to just have people on set that can really just help me make that image. Because being on that set that day made me realize my job is just to take the picture.
right.
I
It's your
shouldn't.
vision.
Yeah.
Like I said to Josh in my interview
Hmm.
or his interview, we're composers.
Right.
We're composers. We're the one that composes the image, and and that's just what it is.
When I saw that, I said, "Ooh, I like this. I can keep going." And it just because before it seemed so daunting to get to that point, but it just made me more excited to
Right.
even continue my career now. Because I'm thinking there's so many levels of help at every step I have to just make sure I get what I need to get.
Right, and then that becomes with knowledge more knowledge you gain in the game
Yeah.
to where it's like, okay, listen, I know what I want, and you're
Mhm.
able to communicate with that with your digitech, your lighting, your gaffer, and everything like that. So it's just like plug and play.
It just felt so simple, and it made me get so into the shoot itself because
Mhm.
now, because I'm learning by myself and I wear so many hats at once, a lot of the shoots I do,
Great
I'll
direction and stuff
yeah,
like that.
I'm doing the lighting, I'm producing it, and if it's like a bigger shoot and I'm shooting, I had one with two models, I make sure they're fed, I make sure my assistant is fed, I'm making sure
Right.
everyone is okay. You're wearing so many hats, little details can get lost so fast.
Facts.
But when I started using assistants, for example, I was thinking one of my favorite assistants, Chris, he said, because I was doing something, I don't know what I was, something crazy, something so weird. It
Right.
was put in my film. He said, "Oh wait, no, that's what I'm here for. You just take the picture."
Right.
And it was felt so good to just know I can focus on one
Right.
thing and
Right.
just take my image and make it what I want it to be. And those pictures just come out so seamless, and you just feel so free at
Comfortable.
creating. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. But speaking about, you mentioned about, one of your cousins being a photographer in New
Yeah.
York. I want to tap in more in like your influences. Were there any early photographers you looked up to, and how did they influence your work today? I know you mentioned Tyler Mitchell, but
Yeah.
maybe like explain more about him. And I think you already explained about him, but like let's talk about more like other photographers that you kind of look up to.
Okay, so I do have a little list of the photographers I love because that list just grows longer and longer every year. So right now it's Renault Madrano. I love her so
Mhm.
much.
Mhm.
Joel Merowitz, which another one? Of course, Tyler Mitchell, Quill Lemons,
Okay.
and Micheline Thomas. And so I'll start with Micheline Thomas because what I've been learning a lot lately is I've been wanting my work to go past just an image. I don't want it to just be something I post anymore because it's starting to become a bit mundane for me, a bit
Right.
boring to just put so much work and effort and feeling into a picture, but only to have it seen through a screen. It feels frustrating and a bit limiting, and so when I see what she does, because I didn't know she was the actual photographer until last year.
Okay.
I just knew I saw her piece in the Red Rooster one year, and it was just this beautiful embellished painting. It had rhinestones and it was beautiful. The composition was amazing. I said, wow, she came up with that. But
Right.
then I saw the reference photo at Untitled last year, and I said, oh, she took an image and then reworked it and made it this beautiful thing.
Right.
And I'm thinking, so I can just take my image and really do whatever I want to do with it. I can make it like I did with a puzzle. I made it a puzzle. Because you can interact with your photo outside of just
Yeah.
posting it. I don't want it to be that way. It's
Yeah.
not supposed
Yeah.
to because
It just don't hit the same.
it never does.
That's why
And
when I seen your
yeah,
print, it was just like, whoa. I'm used so used
exactly.
to digital to where it's like, oh nah, it
Hmm.
hit different when it's in print.
And the whole process, that whole, because I work with film, so I love being able to hold things. I like the tangible aspect to it.
Mhm.
So seeing these works just blown up so big, going back to Renelle, I flew out to New York just to see her show Lambon. I missed the first one and I was not missing the second one. And when I went there, it was amazing because she had her work on vinyls all over the wall. It was framed and she even had a video. And I was just thinking, this work doesn't hit the same until you see it in person because you get to experience it in a different way. Because
Correct.
one, the phone distorts the image. It doesn't, the color is never the same. The texture isn't the same.
Facts.
You actually get to see what the artist saw and you get to live in the moment they had. It's just something of an experience that art is supposed to have.
Correct.
And that's where that the list of photographers I had that I provided with Tyler Mitchell, Quill Lemons, and Joel Merowitz, they create an experience for me. And I
Mhm.
think that's what a lot of my favorite photographers do. They make me feel something and they make my mind stop.
Mhm.
Cause I'm shy, so I'm quiet, but then I have a lot going on up here. I'm
Yeah,
always
facts.
thinking, something's always moving. So when
It's
I
constantly moving. Yeah.
exactly. So when I can look at an image and I can just feel it, I can hear it, and I can see who they are, it just makes me stop and think, yeah, who is this? How can I learn more? Because Joel Merowitz, he's such a new experience for me. I've just found out about him 2 or 3 months ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because
I got a few of his books. Yeah,
yeah, I
for
didn't
sure.
know anything about him. And NSU Museum, they had a show, and a girl I know who works there, she said, "You need to see the show. I think you'd really like it." And I said, "Sure, why not?" And the fact that she reached out to me, it really made me say, "I need to go." And I went to his show. I was just in his exhibit for 2 hours straight, just walking around and just sitting with the work, understanding him, because it was, they're the largest archive of his work. I believe they have over 1,000 prints,
Okay.
and they had
What's
his
the name of the
film.
gallery?
NSU.
Oh, okay, okay.
Really good. It's up until March. And they had so many images from him. And ironically enough, I was going to pick up a book by him at Dashwood, but I put it down. It's called Redheads. I got another book.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. No, I don't have that book. It's in my cart, but I have, yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
I didn't know, I didn't really look into the book after that, but it's crazy. I put the connection. I said, oh, that's him. That's
Right,
that's
right,
him.
right.
And
Because most of his work is
yeah,
more street photography.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that was one of his more portrait
You
things,
know
but it
about
was still street.
Providence?
Which one?
We'll talk after.
I
Yeah,
know what
we
you talk
talk. We
about
talk.
though.
We
You
talk.
talked
Yeah,
about
yeah.
it.
We'll talk about it.
And I just sat with his work and just watching how he engages with it. And I just saw all his physical notes from the dark room.
Right.
I felt something. It was an experience.
I hear your passion. I hear your passion. So that leads me to my next question.
Yeah.
Towards you. And your mentality towards your work in your future work.
hmm
What themes or stories do you aim to capture in your work?
So the themes I want to discover is myself. And I think because I I live in my head a lot, and I tend to think I don't know who I am yet. Although I am getting a good feeling now, like I have a good head on, I understand myself to my core as I get older. I just turned 25, so I have that whole thing, my frontal lobe developed. And it
Right,
actually is a real thing. I actually know who I am more, but my work is a reflection of me, and every photo I take, I can always link back to exactly to what I was feeling that day.
right,
So my work, as I continue what I want to do, is just to uncover who I am more. It's because it's a really personal part of who I am. I like the other day I came home. I don't know how. One of my very first print that I actually mounted on a wood panel. It was for an art show that I had in New York. It was ruined, and I broke
mm,
down crying, and I was just thinking, because one, it was a picture I didn't even like.
right,
I threw away the negatives for the picture only for it to be my favorite picture of all time now. And then there's a stain at the top, and I just broke down when I came home because that was a part of me. Like, I actually felt like I lost a part of me, and I put so much into my work emotionally. That's
that's the
yeah.
passion.
And
That's the passion.
when I saw that, it just really took a piece out of me. And
Yeah,
then
we put our blood, sweat, and tears in
we
this game.
do, and
Yeah.
I really do. So I don't know if it's selfish for me to say that, but I really use my work as my compass of where I am in my life. And
Wow.
at the end of the day, I what's also very important for me is to archive my experience and to archive the Black experience, because as I learn more about where I'm coming from, because having the background I do have, I come from a Jamaican African American background, and
Right.
they're very similar, but they do contrast one another. So I know a lot about where my dad's from. I know a lot about his ancestry. I know where our family's from, grandparents, great grandparents, lineage. But my mom, it really just stops at my great grandmother, and it just made me see how stark of a difference there is between what we have in our archives, what we have to look back on, what we have to just kind of say, wow, this is where we came from, this is what we can kind of account for, this is what we
Right.
can use as a reference. We don't have a guiding light as much as other cultures do. And I find it to be, as an artist, that's one of my biggest purposes, is to ensure that people after me, people right now, can look up my work and say, this is what we were, this is what we can be, this is what we will be.
Mm,
So the archival process is also really big to what I
right.
do.
Right. I want to transition into your creative process.
Okay.
Um, you know, before you shoot and all these different elements
Yeah.
while you shooting, what makes you choose certain locations or subjects for your photos?
hmm So For location, I'll start with location because it's a really big part of what I do. I spend a lot of time in my car and I'm always driving back and forth. So I'm always passing by something that looks really cool, whether it's a storefront, it's a little inlet by the water that I saw the skyline at this time of day and I want to go back and recreate it. And it's also is a part of the story. So I try to think I like planning. I love planning, even if it's just a little shoot where I just hit someone up that I really like their look and I say, hey, let's just shoot together. I have a list of locations where I want to go because it told a story to me. It had its own character already. It's like I'm taking a portrait of the location itself. One of my favorite places I've taken pictures of is this little inlet. I believe it's like off of 61st Street and it's looking over the skyline of South Beach, like Miami Beach rather, and it's the bay. It's by right by
I know
it's
what you're talking about.
like Lemon City. That's
Yeah, yeah.
the real name. And I just went there one day, and it was really quiet for it to be right off of Biscayne. It was a very quiet time, and it was the middle of the day, and it was just silent. And if you're from Miami, you know that skyline just hit different, no
I
matter
do.
what time of day it
Venetian,
is.
MacArthur,
You
Julia
know
Tuttle, all that.
that being on that water and then seeing the skyline of the beach,
It gets you motivated.
yeah, it just entrances you, and that's the feeling I loved, and so I just put that in the back of my mind. I bookmarked it in my Google Maps,
Hmm.
and I said, "We coming right back," because it told a story by itself alone. I don't do landscape photography, but it already creates such a great backdrop to what I'm doing already, and I think that's really important to make because outdoor shoots they're there out of convenience, but they can also be there to help your picture.
For sure.
So I want to make sure that it serves a purpose other than me just being outside. There has to be
Mhm.
something engaging with it. As for my subjects, I just love the way people look. If you have an interesting look and it doesn't even have to come off of face value of you being attractive,
Just a
if
distinct.
yeah, just something that's so distinct. I see what casting agents, I'm starting to pick up. I follow a few of them and I like to follow their eye and I'm starting to see the similarities in how I look for my models. I try to find these features on people that just kind of makes them stand out, whether it's a tattoo, it's a hairstyle, or even just their demeanor, because your demeanor can help you with how you're posing, with how you just look on camera. I just look at something that draws me and makes me question a little bit, saying, I want to know more about who you are because that's what the image does. It's just it forces you to just be between one person and another.
All right.
So if they make me just want to know more, I'm like, I want to work with you. I want to, see what I can pull out. Not
Right.
in a creepy way, but just more so something where it's just such a beautiful thing to watch somebody kind of unfold in front of a camera and just.
I want to tap in more the your mind in regards to while you shooting. What goes in your head while you shooting? Because at
Hmm.
least for me, from my POV, when I'm shooting, nothing else matter when I look in that viewfinder. I'm in the
Yeah.
zone
Right.
and it becomes therapeutic. So I want to. I'm curious of what goes through your mind when you doing your shoots, whether it's
Hmm.
client work or um personal shoots, projects or whatever.
Yeah, so to start, I never really differentiate between personal work and client work because it is my work at the end of the day.
Right.
My name is on that image. So I'll listen to their feedback when they're talking in your ear, when the shoot's happening, you have to like get what they want to get done. But at the end of the day, it is my work. So when you're looking in that viewfinder, you get to block out everything. There's no distractions. My mind just like those scenes in those movies when a basketball player is about to throw that ball and then the crowd just kind of just mellows out. That's exactly what happens. I'm able to focus, especially when I have my waist level finder. I love it so much because I don't see nothing but the person in front of me.
Right.
When you're holding something up to your face, it's a little
Focusing
different.
it.
But when you just have that black square that just puts you in a little booth with just you and your subject, I just silence everything out. And that's when I'm really able to lock in because I'm actually quiet. Everything up here is quiet, but everything that's running through my head. And that's making sure is this centered? Is this level? Does she look does she look calm? Is she uncomfortable? Because I only have so many shots. So I'm also
Right.
thinking do they look comfortable? I always have them breathe out and I another big thing is making sure they're okay with the photo and the pose because it always you can always tell when they're uncomfortable no matter how okay they are with the pose. So I always like to ask them, how do you feel about this right now? How do you Are you okay with this? Is it uncomfortable? You let me know.
Making them feel comfortable.
Yeah, you
And
mhm.
my bad to cut you off,
No.
but it's kind of like I always use this analogy. When I'm us as photographers, I feel like our job is to gain the trust of our subjects,
Yeah.
and that's very key. You know.
It is, and I was shooting with a photographer, and I love to learn more, like learning with their process. I was a model this time, and I was asking him, "How did you get this image out of me? I mean, this emotion?" Because we were just sitting around, and we were like, "I'm looking on a board right now. We're just not talking." And he said, "That's exactly what I needed you to do. I need you to get bored. I need you to get comfortable. Remove that shell."
He tapping in your,
Yeah.
he tapping in with you.
Mhm.
It's a science.
Exactly.
A lot of people don't understand it's a
It's not
science.
easy.
It's not like a lot of
Mm-mm.
people think it's just snap, snap, snap. Like no, this is a science.
Yeah.
And I think I'm not sure you seen me shoot, but I know a lot of people. I'm interested to hear your POV when
Yeah.
if you ever seen me shoot. But I'm just in the zone. I'm
When
having a
you're shooting,
conversation.
look,
You
a brick can drop right by your head. Nothing's gonna move. Like you,
talking
yes, you.
about me?
Nothing will distract you from anything. Like, cause when you get this kind of tunnel vision when you're shooting,
Mhm.
you like that work needs to get done. You don't care who, what, when, where, why. That image is gonna come out, and if it doesn't come out right, because one thing I noticed about you, you're able to sense if it's not what you want. You're like, okay, we're gonna take a break right here. Let me see what you're doing,
Mhm.
and then you'll just readjust it. If you're the one shooting, you're just gonna lock out, and then you're gonna stop, make sure everything is okay up here, and then you're gonna go back, look in, and get the two point of views, and then you're ready to shoot. Because you're very intentional with that picture
Yeah,
even though you're quick because it's just what you do,
yeah,
I do notice there's a certain type of intention with every
yeah. You
picture you
get
put
it. No,
out.
but you get it.
Yeah.
So it's like I feel like we need like a photography committee because this is really like a science. A lot of people don't understand like the intention, the
Mhm.
dynamics of when we look in this viewfinder, whether the lighting is there or whatever, but once we even in digital, I mean obviously film we take a little bit longer, but even when
Yeah.
we look at our uh how you say it, the pictures on the computer when we do get our negatives,
Yeah.
when we look at that moment in that picture, the quality that we took or that picture that we
Yeah.
took, it's just breathtaking. A lot of,
I
it's a
know.
fucking drug.
It is because when I get that email that says your
That
scans are ready,
oh
I
my
said,
bad.
okay, I'm gonna cut everything off. Y'all can see me later.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
left the gym early one day because I said I need to come back and I need to look at my negatives now. I need to see these because I'm not gonna run up because I already run up the memory on my phone. I removed
Right.
that memory. I had an app that can take we transfer files put directly on your phone.
Oh, really?
I had to remove it because it was eating my memory up. But I rushed home because it just feels so good because you don't get to see what you're shooting.
Right.
You know, you have a general idea of what you're gonna get, but you really don't know. And then you always have that one image where you're like, oh, I didn't know it's gonna come out like
Right.
that.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And then you just try to chase that feeling again,
It's,
which just
it's a
leads to
high. It's
I
a high. It's a
know.
high. And that comes with just
Mm-hmm.
us being film photographers.
Yeah.
Digital has that moment too, but film is a whole nother ball game.
And honestly, I've been using digital more because I've noticed I love film. It's gonna be my baby forever, but I'm still learning, I'm still progressing, and I feel like I was doing myself a disservice with
Right.
just
Right.
shooting film because I was noticing one, a lot of commercial jobs, they want to see it. Because I had a job where I was shooting someone and they're saying, can we see it? I said, it's film. So I can't show you anything. And I felt so bad because they were right. They need to see something when it's going to be blown up and all these
Right.
different platforms. They have to see it, they have to know what to change. And then that was a moment for me where I said, I need to change that because I'm always ready to learn. I'm always ready to change what I need to change or
Right. Right.
to level up. So I have been forcing myself to delve more into digital just to kind of give me a bit of like an option when I want to shoot. And then it also gives me something to fall back on as well.
So my next question,
Hmm.
is really tapping in within you.
Okay.
Um, how would you describe yourself beyond being a photographer? And I ask that because I feel like, people see your personality through your work, but it's probably people out there want to hear who is really Taylor beyond the
Yeah.
photography.
I'm I'm soft spoken.
Hmm.
Um, I would say I generally think I'm really caring.
Right.
I'm very fun. I'm spontaneous and I'm more, I guess, whimsical is a word, or just someone who wonders a lot. Cause I like to think about the different outcomes of what can be and what wasn't. I'm very nostalgic. I guess dreamlike. I like to think about situations I don't really have control over because now I do have control over it in my mind.
Right.
So I think me as a person, I'm still figuring it out. I'd say I know there's just some core values to me that'll never change. I'm very intentional. I'm very caring. I try my best to have as much fun as possible because I really don't like taking anything seriously anymore. But who I am now, there's just so many little words that just tend to come out because I'm just learning so much more about myself because these last few years have just been such a great wake up call for me. I ran into an old friend of mine and I saw her and she was like, "You look so different, but it's not like at face value. You just have this glow to you."
Yeah, I
And I
feel.
feel like it's coming from a place of me becoming more secure of myself. And even though I'm still discovering it, I feel right now in this moment, I feel so secure. I feel as if I know where I want to have fun. I love my friends. That's another thing about me that I really like to talk about is my relationships with people, romantically, platonically. I just love being able to connect with people
Right.
because they really keep me going. Everyone I have around me, my support system, my family, my friends, my boyfriend, they all just they light a fire in me that I didn't know I needed because I was very
So the
yeah.
support system is very important.
It is because I can really spend a lot of alone time. I can be okay by myself, but I recently saw how important it is to have people there for you, holding you up, having your back, even when you think you don't need it. So when I allow myself to just take down this show, because I was very independent, I really didn't need help a lot, and I actually just kind of gave way into just being taken care of. I saw how that allowed me to find parts of me I didn't even know was there.
Right.
So, for example, my boyfriend, he when he's there for me, he helps me to get out of my head. He helps me to realize maybe I am that bitch. He'll like say like you're Taylor, like come on, wake
Affirmation.
up. Yeah, he'll
Affirmations.
affirm me, and then
Yeah.
I'll be thinking, I needed this, and so those portions of me, I just really put a lot of emphasis on my relationships and my girlfriends. Cause I recently came into a group of 5, 6 girls, and when I say I always wanted a group of girlfriends, I never really had it, but now that I do, it is just so fulfilling to
Right.
have these people think about you in ways that you could never even think of.
Right.
For example, I had my birthday this year, and this was the very first time I had friends come together and throw something for me.
Right. That's
Like
a blessing. Not
it
too people have
is
that.
the
Yeah.
intention it takes to have everyone coordinate some time out for me to notice the details of me. Like I had a friend make me my favorite cake, and I didn't even know she knew it. I said, "How do you know this stuff?"
Right.
It just felt so good to be seen. So, just having that just kind of awakened this secure sense of who I am right now.
Right.
I'm still trying to just define it right now, but it just feels good to know that I'm secure when I'm coming.
Okay, tapping in more about your work.
Yeah.
Are there any photos you've taken that had or hold a special emotional connection for you? Any particular photo?
Yes. It's called In Her Arms.
Hmm.
And that's the photo I was talking about that I did not like. I don't know what it is. So it was a shoot I had. It was someone's birthday. And this was when I was just, getting my feet wet, starting getting hired more. But she was a young mom. She was a single mom and she had to bring her daughter. It wasn't an intention to bring her, but she said, "Hey, she's with me." I said, "I don't mind. Look, it's your girl. You got to bring her with you, you
Right.
know." So we went to the beach. She had this really nice outfit on, but then the baby was just really fussy. She wanted to be with her mom, and I said, "Let's just take pictures with her. It doesn't mind." And she was like, "Yeah, of course, I want pictures with my daughter." So, because that, like I said, it wasn't in the plan. So she just had a basic outfit on. But then I captured a picture of them just holding each other. And I say each other because, of course, the mom is holding the baby. But the more I really engage with that image and the more I look at it, the more I realize that the baby hold on to her, but like the mom was holding on to the baby. It was more so like a mutual hug between the two.
Right.
And I saw that it was a moment where a mother needed her daughter and her daughter needed her mother. It was just such a cool way to just intertwine that relationship because my mom and I, as I get older, I understand the importance between having her not only as a mother, but a friend, just someone I can go home to. Like she is my home. And you may knock heads, it's your parents, you knock heads.
Not gonna agree with everything.
Right, but I
It's-
saw that when I saw that and I re-examined the image and I kept looking at it, I just kept going back for some reason. It just, even though I didn't like it, I just kept going back for it. I
Right.
just kept looking and I said, then one day it clicked. I said, oh, that's my mom and I. That's my grandmother and my aunt. That's my friend and her mom. It was all these relationships of motherhood and being a daughter
Mhm.
just in one image. And on top of that, it's not a face on portrait. It was just something that was so spontaneous that I didn't even expect to get that just kind of shows what that relationship can be like. You never know what you're going to get, but at the end of the day, it's love.
Right, right.
So,
That's beautiful. That's a
yeah.
beautiful. That's
It
see. This is what I'm saying. Being a photographer is deeper than just taking a picture.
is.
Um, what's the most unexpected or exciting opportunity you've had as a photographer so far?
The most surprising one I would say was Serena Williams this year. So I was driving and I
I know
got
that was
the,
a real moment.
yeah, it was crazy.
I seen her in person. I was assistant, so I
Yeah.
that was it was like damn. I seen you in TV growing up.
Yeah, so I was just driving and I got the email and I saw it because I this was when I first set up my website and I made my first professional email. And I was thinking, okay, I got an email. It said, we're from WWD Magazine and we need you to shoot Serena Williams. And are
You
you
thought it was
interested?
fake.
I thought it was fake. I said, oh, this is spam, whatever. And
Yeah.
I grew up with the internet, so I know what a fake email looked like. But then the email seemed legit, so I just responded and I searched up the editor's name and I said, "Oh, she is not lying."
Yeah.
And so I hurried and set up the inbox because it wasn't all the way fully set up yet. So I rushed and I got the opportunity. It was from a friend, so that was really great.
It's a blessing.
Yeah, it was just such a great way of knowing that someone's looking out for me. And it just felt crazy shooting the Serena Williams because that's a household name.
Yeah.
That's
That's a legend.
somebody you grew up watching the Olympics with. That's somebody your mama look up to. That's somebody that you talk about like when you on the tennis court, you just like, I want to hit like Serena Williams.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
She's a
Yeah.
legend. And so as the time kept going for it and it was coming to be real and more real, and I got to the shoot and I met her, it just felt like what I was working for finally came true because this is just 3 years finally taking on this craft and just let it take over me. And it just felt so affirming. Like I made it. And my parents didn't even believe me. 'Cause I told them, I said, guess what I'm shooting? And they said, who? I said, Serena Williams. Like, Taylor, you're lying. And they tried to like shoo me away. I said, no, I'm serious. They're like, okay, sure. And they finally believed me, of course. And then just being in her presence, I'm not gonna like spaz out over celebrity,
Yeah.
but it just felt
And the interview
good.
though, you was like,
Yeah.
I'm fucking shooting Serena Williams. It's crazy.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
was just like, oh my God. It just
Mhm.
felt so good just
Mhm.
having the affirmation to be able to capture her
Mhm.
because it's important for us to be able to capture them in a specific light. And so it just felt good working with the team, hearing all that feedback because I was there with like a writer, I was there with a videographer, and I had an assistant, my friend Josh. And it's crazy because I looked up to Josh. I still do, even
Mhm.
like
Oh, we talking
it,
about our Josh. Oh,
yeah,
okay, okay,
because
okay,
I
okay.
needed an assistant, and I was thinking,
That's my boy. I love him.
yeah,
That's my dog. I
I just
love him.
needed someone who like could like match my flow. Cause I only had 20 minutes to shoot her,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I was like, okay, I need someone that can really match the pace I really need to be at. So I asked him, and he graciously agreed. And that experience, it was just such a surreal moment. Even now, it gives me butterflies because
Right.
I did it and I got a cover out of it.
That's dope.
So for it to be my first big editorial to work with a team, and it felt good, having her team speak to me about what their expectations were, because more or less they just sent me a general mood board, of course, but I loved getting the feedback from what her team needed because I was able to just once again demonstrate a skill that I picked up over the years. Like I can listen to you while I'm shooting. Mind you, I'm shooting on film, so I had 20 minutes to shoot 3, 4 rolls, pull in, pull out. It was great.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, it was a good moment.
That's dope. That's dope. So I wanna tap into this question, but before I ask this question, the reason that this question is important to me because you know us as Black people in these spaces, we barely see ourselves,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And let alone you know Black women. And I want to hear your perspective on this.
Mhm.
How does being a Black woman influence your perspective as a photographer?
It it makes me it influences my photography in the way how I depict emotion
Right.
and how I pose my subjects. So I'll begin with posing because I feel like I've gone through the motion part. Posing is already a small challenge already because you're trying to figure out what works for what you're trying to get while also making sure someone is comfortable. So when I pose my subjects, it's but on a most of the time I am shooting a Black person because that's just what I know. That's what I do. I try not to make it overtly. I don't try to affirm any stereotypes. Let me put it that way. I try to make sure that I'm putting it in the light that I would love to be shed in because I really don't like when because I understand it's okay to be like free and sexy and full flowing because that's where I'm at right now. I had a series recently where I shot my friend Angel and they were basically a depiction of how I was feeling very confident, very sexy, and just kind of getting to my womanhood at this time. But I didn't want to do anything where it's just like affirming this viewpoint that we already have on Black women already. I didn't want it
Right.
to be seen as just some like just hot and ready. But there's this one piece in a museum I saw of a Black woman, and it was just so voluptuous, but it was uncomfortable, especially coming from my perspective. Because it had the big red lips, it had the long nails, and I'm thinking, we have that, but we don't look like that. Because all right, right now the portrayal of Black women, and a lot of times when what I was seeing growing up, it was this exaggerated version of what I've already knew known. So, for example, I grew up around the hot gals. My aunties, they were them. My mom, she was a hot girl. I got the pictures to prove it. But then when you're watching these movies and you're seeing these depictions of Black women, you just think that's not us.
Right.
That's not my auntie. That's not my grandma. That wouldn't be who my mom is. And then that's an exponential thing. It doesn't just stop at who I know. It doesn't stop at the neighbor. It's basically a that is who they would view a Black woman all across the globe. That's at face value. That's what they think we are. But then I went to the museum one day and then I just saw this really exaggerated version of what this artist thought a Black woman was. And then it just felt like a caricature. It felt like a joke. It felt like a puppet. It just didn't feel real. So my job is to make sure that I'm redefining that. I'm kind of breaking away from this exaggeration of who they tend to think Black women are. We are sexy, we're fun, we're beautiful. We have this vibe to us, this energy that I just find to be magical. My biggest inspiration are Black women. It's who I am, it's what made me the person today. So my job is to make sure that we're depicted in this light that not only proves those that proves those exaggerations wrong, but also makes my friends, my people, the people who I look like me feel good. I want them to look at that and say, you know what, that is me. I do feel good in this. I can wear a bikini. Because guess what? The model that I did show my friend Angel, they were in a bikini, but it wasn't nothing where I'm gonna reveal them and they're feeling uncomfortable. I want them to be able to be in that situation, to be in an outfit like that, but not feel like they're being exploited in any way. I just want them to feel like I'm just here being documented. I'm here being, captured in a way that's beautiful, that's elegant, which is the way that we are, how we should have the dignity to be depicted as.
Right. And then it also, when you come across your subjects, you just gain their trust.
Yeah,
versus
because
being. I mean, you gain a trust of being for them to be in front of the frame. Yeah.
because going back to how I said my first experience at art battle was seeing Canadian Wiley. That was my first time seeing a dignified portrait of a black person, like seeing them in an esteemed light. It just felt so regal, it felt royal, it felt good. And then, just trickling down to all of the people I've been influenced by, I just want to make sure I continue that trend, that I continue that this is who we are. I want those little girls that look up to these photos because this is now their media. This is what they're consuming. I want them to understand I can aspire to be that way because we all have those aspirations growing up that we want to look like our cousins that were going to the club. We want to look that good.
Mhm.
We want to, you want to wear those big earrings and stuff. You
Right.
want to, because that's what part of growing up. You want to experience those things that you don't have just yet. I want to be able to make those photos where the woman before me, the woman that are about to become one, they can look at that and feel good and say, you know what, that is me. I can aspire to be that way.
Right. Right. It's that I love that response to the question because that's yeah, that's what I've been fighting for a long time. And
Yeah.
yeah, when you in these spaces, yeah, yeah, I ain't gonna get too deep. You get crazy. You gonna have me go on a rant, but nah,
Because
you
you
doing the right
can.
thing. You doing the right thing,
Yeah.
and continue that journey. I'm here to let you know, continue that journey, continue to fight. You know,
Because even, looking at the music videos, they felt good, because they were twerking. I wasn't allowed to twerk, that was forbidden. But it's still something I aspired to be because it wasn't over, because I saw my aunties winding up. That was okay. But then when you see it from the eyes of somebody else, you just can tell it's an outside perspective looking in and not an inside perspective.
right,
Like
right.
one of my favorite movies is Paid in Full, and the way they depict the black culture, you can tell that it came from someone who
From
went
that
through
kind
it.
of
You know,
yeah,
there's just so many little details that you can't get.
belly too.
Yeah, oh,
Oh, yeah,
belly.
let's not get started with that.
Look, let's not start with the movies. But you see how you can tell there's a language being spoken that can't
Mhm.
be translated if you don't have it. So,
Right, right, right. Talking about just women in the industry or black women in the industry. I'm sorry.
mhm.
What advice would you give to young women aspiring to enter the photography field?
Pick up that camera and make mistakes because you're not going to learn without them, because you're not going to get the best photo at first, but don't let that discourage you from just trying new things. Just because if you get that wrong image, you're going to figure out how to make it right. you know just keep shooting. And I know it's such a continuous saying, just keep going, but I'm learning now that intention and consistency are the two biggest keys to success. It's the two biggest keys to getting the most out of a situation. Because if you have the intention to get better, if you have the intention to want to be a great photographer, you're going to want to continue to make that image better. But making that image better requires consistency. So those two together, you're not only going to get better, you're going to learn more about yourself. You're going to learn more about the craft. You're going to succeed in exactly what you're looking to do if that's your intention, because you can only go where you're looking to go. If you can't look back, you just got to keep looking forward. And then also find those references, look at them, learn them, get to know them, and even outside of photos, listen to things, because your photo is an emotion and you can't see an emotion sometimes. You have to hear it. So hearing
Right,
how someone explains their work, seeing how they interact with it outside of just taking it, that can translate into so many different portraits, so many different perspectives, so many different angles that you cannot get from one reference.
right, right. So, I want to get your POV on this. I think,
Okay.
as me being a fan,
Yeah.
what are some unique ways you're exploring to present your work outside of posting on social media or prints?
So outside of that, I definitely want to. So right now, I just released a puzzle because a lot of my work requires me touching everything. So that's me loading my camera, that's me taking it out, that's me rescanning negatives. I'm even exploring darkroom prints. I'm touching my photos so much and I'm getting that final product in my hands, but no one else is but me. And so I want to be able to explore ways to give that to everyone to be able to engage with the image because you can break it down, you can, connect with it in different ways. And so when I came up with the idea, with the intention rather, to learn how to give my image out to other people, to have them engage with it in other ways, I just thought a puzzle was a really great way because everyone has a print, everyone has a sticker, but you don't really hear a photographer having a puzzle. And or creating a puzzle, you're piecing the image together one by one, and you're able to study each portion of the picture. And then when you're done, you're able to step back and say, wow, like this detail wouldn't be here without that. And even it won't even be without a color, it's a shadow piece. So I'll have a
Right.
piece of the puzzle that's a shadow. It can make or break the photo itself. Or you'll notice how a pink is actually blue or how orange is actually red. You get to see those small details that I see, but that can be picked up from a phone screen. And so, seeing how I can break that down in a puzzle made me so inspired to just continue to find new ways to do it. I want to get it more into tapestry, learning how the image flows with fabric. I think that would be a really great way to engage with it because now it's not only an image, it's a performance because you're
Right.
watching how the wind moves with the image and you're just creating a feeling with it too.
I'm smiling hard because I always tell people we're scientists. The way that you described all those elements, we're
Yeah.
scientists. Like we talk about colors, we talk about the texture, the everything is
Yeah.
that's science. Literally. A lot of people don't a lot of people think we just push a camera. It's deeper than that.
It's so much deeper, and then when you're in the dark room and you touching all them chemicals and you're manually adjusting the image, you have the power that it's like, why wouldn't you want to experience that? That screen can only give you so much. And during Art Basel, I was intentionally going out there trying to explore new ways on how can I break down my image without it just being a print. And there is a photographer where what she did, she printed her photo on silk and then she deconstructed it thread by thread and then put it back together. And then that made me realize I can do so much more with an image outside of just printing it.
Right.
Going back to Micheline Thomas, her her work is a portrait first, but that she then transformed into a painting with gems and like different mediums, and you can tell that she has such a personal relationship with her work outside of just taking the photo because you understand it in a different way. You get to know your image. You get to speak to it. It
Right.
just kind of creates a soul of its own when you give it life. I think that's a really great way of putting it because an image is supposed to be experienced because your earliest experience of having a photo is in an album and you're sitting in a circle with your family members and you're flipping page to page and you're like, oh, that's so and so. Oh, you don't know Uncle this
Right.
and that. And
Right. Great memories.
you're supposed to pour over a picture. It's a snapshot of time. So you can't just scroll past it. You're looking at history. You want to keep it alive. So just immortalizing it past social media, I think, is really big for me.
How do you want your work to be experienced by your audience beyond a screen or a frame?
I want to just blow my work up as big as possible because similar to IMAX, I wanted to envelop the viewer, right? So
Billboard maybe too?
Billboard, yes.
Yeah.
Because when I learned how to rescan my negatives and I learned I can blow it up really as big as I can, it just opened the door up to how many possibilities I can experience my image. And I just saw Interstellar in the movie theaters, and seeing it on such a big screen just changes the whole view of what it can be. You
Right.
can look at a movie at home on a TV screen. It's cool, but it's not IMAX
Oh yeah,
cool.
for
You
sure.
know,
That's why I hope the movie theaters don't die.
they can't
Yeah.
because
The experience.
even watching Moonlight for the first time, watching
I seen
that
it in
in
the
theater.
movies. I seen
Oh
the
my!
movies. It's crazy.
And it was like two people, and I was
Yeah.
one of them in the theater watching that.
But the
It's
depiction of
such a
Miami, seeing Miami in that
yeah.
light
You
and
know what I mean?
cinematic.
It's it's something you can't get from a TV screen, or
Right.
it's not something that you can just see by going up outside and just looking around. No, like you have to sit down and like let it wash over you. And that's what I want my pictures to do. I want you to feel the emotion I feel. I want you to feel the stake that I have in it. Because when you just get to gaze up and you're just kind of letting your eye travel and you're noticing the details, I mean, down to the framing, which is so important as well. Because I'm really big into taking in natural elements. Because when I do make prints, I like to use a wood panel to just kind of give that organic element to my work. I want you to see just every part of me because that is what my picture is. It is me.
What does documenting the Black experience mean to you personally?
It it means so much. It means archiving an experience. It means giving us a place to go back to, a library of sorts, to just kind of look back and look at what was and what can be. You know, Solange, I was reading an article in Harper's Bazaar with Solange, and she was talking about how important it is for her to just archive because you have to learn from your past to bring it into the present. And we need something to go off of. We need that base. And so capturing the Black experience for me, it's such a joyful experience, no matter where the experience stemmed from, because now we have something to talk about. We have something to enjoy again. We have something to have discourse over. Just like it just gives an endless possibility of what can be for everyone that gets in touch with it. You know, because movies are such a central point for me. Because I grew up watching Friday, and to this day, my whole family we can sit down and just say random jokes from the movie because it just means that much. Because that was an experience that Ice Cube created for us to have. He said, "I
Right.
want y'all to have this," and we're going back and still talking about it to this day. Coming to America, another great movie where we're all engaging with it. We're still talking about it. It's still a part of our daily lives. So by me making work, I just want every single person, and especially Black people, to just know like, I'm making this for us,
Right.
like
Right.
FUBU. But I just really want us to know like this experience. I want y'all to know like y'all are loved. Like this is my biggest inspiration. At the end of the day, it's who I do it for because if it's who I am and it's my daily experience, and it just means so much to me to be a Black person. It's just
On
the
God.
biggest blessing I can say is just being who I am because it just uplifts me in so many ways to know I have such strength behind me, coming to me, and in me at this time. That's just why what I do. What I do is just to let us know like we're seen and we're felt and we're acknowledged no matter what.
Now, it goes now. What I'm about to ask you is more like tapping in within yourself again.
Okay.
How has your journey in photography helped you discover more about yourself?
It's made me learn about where I came from because you have to at some point acknowledge the path you've took already to continue forward. You have to look at the origin point because I started realizing how a lot of my photos and like a lot of what I was creating, a lot of what I was looking for was already experience I've lived or someone before me has. So I found that in taking these pictures and even going down to locations, I was discovering portions of Miami, for example, I didn't even know was a thing. So, for example, by the Citadel, what it is now, the Citadel, I went through my mom. She's like, "That's where the Pac Jam was," and I said, "Girl, I'm like, what are you talking
Oh, the
about?"
one on Biscayne.
Not on Biscayne. I think it's
Nah,
like
54th and 12.
it's like 79th and something, 79th
Well, the
and
Pac
something.
Jam used to be another Pac. Well, the original Pac Jam used to be. Well, she probably know more than me,
Right.
but I literally stay down the street. It's
Mhm.
54th and 12th,
Okay.
in Liberty City. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's showing me because I hear so many stories about the Miami my mom grew up in, and she tells me all these crazy stories. And even my brother, because he grew up from like the '90s, early 2000s. So I didn't get to experience that because
It was a
I
whole nother world.
right, and I grew up in Broward, so I didn't really get to experience their stories or just get like a little piece of it. So when I actually get to location scout and I'm going out there, I'm taking these pictures, I'm learning more about where I came from that I didn't get a chance to experience firsthand.
Right.
So I'm going, I guess I'm viewing it only from the point like I heard a story about it, but now I'm putting the pieces together. I'm matching it up. I went to the Hampton House and I went there. I said,
How was
"Oh,
that?
it was
I've been in there, but it's
insane."
crazy.
It's just a nice pocket of history where I'm thinking, "Wow, I didn't know this was even a thing." And then,
And then in
mhm,
Miami, it's depicted as Latin, but the fact that you
yeah,
see the Black history, there's a lot of Black history in
there's so
Miami.
much. I believe it's the McDuffie riots. I want to say.
19 so yeah, that was
Mhm.
19, I forgot, I don't want to quote the year, but in the
Yeah.
70s,
Yeah.
late 70s, and a lot of people think about the Rodney King, but we had our own little riots, and that's where I'm from in Liberty.
Exactly.
Predominantly was in Liberty City and Overtown, and
Mhm.
I was always told that the reason that we have those barred barred windows
Mhm.
was mostly because of that riot.
It's true.
Mhm.
I would hear stories about it because I would ask about Liberty City and like where my mom grew up because I love hearing her perspective from the '70s.
It's a pride thing. You gotta be from the city.
I
You see me
love it.
tatted.
Yeah. Like, I just love hearing her, experience with it because she came to Miami when she was 5, so I was, like, around '74. So she really saw the come up of it, like, she really saw it from the ground up. She saw, like, the influx, like, the Cubans coming in, like, the
Migrations.
migration, just, like, all the migration, like, hearing her stories of watching the city come to life. So I'm really interested in hearing her experience and, like, my brother, and so, going there is just so surreal. It just makes stories more colorful. And then even my dad, he immigrated here, I believe in the late '80s, I believe it is. And then like just going around places where he's from and where his first apartment was and where my auntie's place where we all kind of congregated at when we first came here.
Right.
It just puts such a special light on where I'm coming from.
Right. And in with intention.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's all that leads to for me. That's just been such a big thing like this because when I was 16, I'm thinking, oh, the next tat I'm gonna get, I got my granny on me. Like that's the most important one because
Everything gotta be with intention.
right, like I wanted to
Literally.
be so I already want to remove a tat I have behind my ear because I'm like,
Mhm.
what's the point of that? So I'm like, let me wait. Cause my homegirl, she's a tattoo artist. She offered me a free tattoo, but I said, I'm gonna wait because I don't want to just get something just to get it. But I figured out its intention. And
Right.
it's ironic because I'm intentionally getting that tattoo. But now it's such a huge recurring theme right now that intention is everything.
Yeah.
It's in everything I do now, and I'm noticing there's so much value to my life that is just popping up the more I just put that feeling forward, the more I try to pull it out of everything. I mean, down to just waking up. When you give
Everything.
yeah, like
Purpose and passion. Every time you wake up,
yeah.
my bad to cut you off,
No,
but
you're
like
good.
every time I wake up, I already know God put me on this earth for a reason.
Mhm.
Is the purpose. Like the ultimate reason that we do what we do is because of our purpose here in this world.
Exactly.
And then you start to understand it's a blessing because a lot of people are not really tapped in on their purpose in life.
It's that spark, and even in the movie Life, it is with Jamie Foxx. It's a Disney movie, and I believe it's Pixar, if I'm not mistaken, but it's a Disney movie. And that whole movie is about him finding a spark, just finding because he goes to the afterlife and he's a spirit and he's trying to help this next spirit come into the world. And but you have to find your spark. And
Right.
that movie starts with like a middle-aged guy. He has a spark, but he's just so desperate to have it. And watching that movie as an adult, even though it's for kids, you start to notice the little Easter eggs Disney puts in. Like that's really an adult movie. You can't convince me any different.
Right.
It's talking about finding your spark, and that's just been such a main grounding point for me. And I have a saying right now that says ground yourself from purpose because I was just kind of floating around just trying to find what was really for me. And then when I really settled into photography and I just really settled into creative direction and just kind of immersing myself in this world, I just kind of blossomed. And because
Right.
I created these roots for myself. And so without that, you have nothing from me.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a interesting question for me. If you could travel anywhere for a photography project, where would you go?
London.
Oh,
I
okay.
would go
I
to
can see that. I can see
London
that.
because there's this Jamaican population out there. And I want to specifically for carnival. I really want to go for the carnival because I heard it's just different. I actually went to my first carnival this year. It was overwhelming is a word to
Oh
say. Like
yeah.
I went because my homegirl was like, "You gonna like you never been to carnival and you Jamaican?" I said, "No, I never been." It's just
Your
kind of
mom was
testing.
not playing
No, she
that.
weren't. And then my dad, who's like, "Hell no, you're not doing that because you trust
Yeah.
everything out." But I'm like, you know what? Let me just try it. And I
Right.
went this year. It was overwhelming, but it felt nice just being surrounded by Caribbean people and just kind of getting that whole party feel for real. Like it just
Right.
felt like a huge party. And
Mhm.
so I see that the one in London is just insane. It's different. And then not to mention, I'm a huge house fan. So I love the UK garage scene out there as well. There's just so many pockets of the London scene that I
Yeah.
feel like would be really cool to explore.
They on top too right now.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Cortez is on like doing amazing things right now. You have Gabriel Moses is breaking ground with some amazing work right now. And then another distinct memory about London where I feel like I need to go out there and really explore it is there's this video with ASAP Rocky and Skepta, praise the Lord. And the whole video is like London and New York City, and you're just watching how there's so many similarities, but there's still very noticeable differences. And I just
Oh yeah,
feel,
yeah. I like that video.
yeah, like
Love that video.
the way it just flows, and you see how Skepta just has his own flow, and then like that whole, I think it's grime, right? That's
Yeah, it's
their
grime.
rap. So I love the grime. I love their energy. It just seems out there.
Very
Something is.
new.
It's very
It's
fresh.
old, but it's
Yeah,
new at the same time.
they definitely take what I'm saying so much of right now, which is taking the past and pushing it forward. Because a lot of the creators out there, they honor where they come from a lot. Like there's a lot of Africans out there, and I actually met some this past Basel. They did something with Motherland, and it was like Grace Ladoja. She did a whole bunch of events, and it was just very African leaning. Of course, just taking from where she's coming from and her influences. And I think there's something so great about just honoring where you're coming from, and they're doing it so seamlessly while also just waking it up and refreshing the
Right.
creative world.
Right.
So definitely London.
That was up. That was up. So I got a couple more questions left.
Okay,
I know it's a long interview,
it's
but I'm very
fine.
this is honestly this is amazing because I got to really know who you are. I mean, obviously the
Yeah.
audience, but no, this is dope to me because I know you for about like 2 years, 2 or 3 years
Yeah.
now, and then just really knowing. I always know we have conversations, but now like, damn, I'm really tapping into like, damn, who you are as a friend and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But I'm very interested what I'm about to ask you because, and you could take your time when I
Okay.
do ask this or when you're ready to answer. What legacy do you hope to leave behind, both personally and professionally?
Ooh. Mm. Legacy. Okay. Okay. So personally, I I want it to be known that I didn't give up. That that's such a big thing for me. I just wanted to be known that I did what I had to do. I didn't stop. I faced every challenge, and even though it may have been difficult sometimes, I just didn't stop. And a lot of success stories are bred out of that it was as simple as that. They just didn't stop. And I just, you know what, let that be professional too. So professionally and personally, I didn't stop. It's because a lot of times that there's this plateau you reach, and then there's this hill you have to go over to really reach that next level. And I'm climbing up that hill right now, and I'll be honest, it is not easy climbing up that hill because you're facing rejections, you're doubting yourself,
Oh man, don't get me started for
like
sure.
you're just, because I'm still feeling like I'm still trying to figure out exactly where I'm trying to land when I reach that top. But I just know I'm trying to break through a glass ceiling, but I don't want to stop at any point because I'm seeing how important it is that this momentum I've built, I may have slowed down, I may have sped up, but I never stopped. And I can say this has been the most beneficial lesson I've learned so far in my life. And I know this is a lesson that's going to stay. And then going to my professional work, another legacy that I want to have is that I was very reflective on what was happening in the now, but not politically, of course, but just stylistically. I think there is something so fresh about the 2020s and my teenage years. there's something so unique about it. I know we pull a lot, like there's a whole thing of trends recycle, but there's just so much new coming out right now. And I want it to be known that I captured that in a way where it's going to be remembered in such a high place, because we often talk about, oh, it's not the summer of 2016. Oh, when I was a kid, we grew up in the right time. We grew up in the right time, but where are we now? We're the new generation. We're the ones that's going to evoke that change. So we have to capture it right now. We have to make sure that it's remembered on the high pedestal
Right.
that it is at this very moment. Because the Safdie brothers, they made the movie Uncut Gems, and I love that movie
Amazing movie.
for the sole purpose that they were able to capture that 2010s, like
Oh,
that time, you know what
yeah.
I
The
mean?
weekend and
Yeah.
everything.
'Cause I remember when I first saw the movie, and there's a scene where Julia Fox, she's like, some guy called the weekend. I'm like, what do you mean some guy called the weekend? Then it made me remember that's when Trilogy first came out, House of Balloons, and that's when it was such a new thing, and it was still on
Even his
SoundCloud.
dreads.
Yeah, like it was such a new concept, and that's when the NBA was like popping off, and you had, it was like the rap, and it was just, and for me, that was the time where it kind of awakened me creatively, and I just saw there's more to be sought after. So watching that movie just made me see like there's these two last decades which have shaped me into who I am right now, because I was a teenager during that time, and then now it's the 2020s. That was such an important time. So I want to make sure that my legacy is that I capture that perfectly. Well, not even perfectly, because there are flaws,
Right.
but I just did a great job of capturing the moment that we're in right now.
Nah, that's dope. I'm glad I asked that for sure. So, lastly, the last question I do have, do you have any last words or any advice for the people out here that's looking at this interview?
Any last words? I may not have a lot to say because I feel like I said a lot in this interview.
For sure.
But I'm just glad that if you've made it this far, that you've listened to me, that you've watched me, you've seen me, you felt me at this very point. I can just say right now in my life, I've never felt this grounded. I've never felt this level. And there's just something so beautiful right now of me becoming so comfortable with the person I am now that everything just feels sure. I'm about to step into a new journey of mine next year, and I'm a bit nervous, but there's some type of assurance at the end of the tunnel just calling my name. And there's just there's just this surprise. I just feel like that's just so warm in my heart that I feel like I'm making the right choice. So yeah, just hopefully, grounding myself in this feeling right now that I'm gonna continue to take with me. That's really important as well. Like I try to really take those feelings and of contention, like just like the really great feeling in my heart. I try to make sure it's there with me every day, no matter if it's a really bad day. Cause I just see that there's this really big light at the end of the tunnel for me. So yeah, thank you.
Taylor, we here. We finally made it to the
We
end.
did.
Again, thank you for being a part of this. It's truly an honor. Um, I really got to really fully know you. I always tell my guests
Yeah,
this is a this is not an interview. This is mostly like a therapy session.
I felt like it.
Um,
It felt good
yeah,
too.
make you tap in within you. It makes you feel appreciative about yourself.
Mhm.
People like us, we always help others, but we forget about our own selves and really tapping into
Yeah,
what we've been doing, in the past.
exactly.
How can the audience support you, get a hold of you, or follow your journey?
Yeah, so all you gotta do is follow me on Instagram, AquaKiss, and look at my website because I have a great portfolio there.
And I'll put it on the description so
Okay,
you
so
can.
y'all make sure y'all look at that because that's where all my updates are. And then I also have Aqua Studios on there. So if you want to shoot on over, get a puzzle, or even just take a look around just so you can get an idea of who I am, because you'll be able to see some images. Hopefully, you're able to match up some of the explanations to them.
All right.
But, that's a great way to support me.
Yeah. Well, we here. We in motion. Um, yeah, that's it. This is the conclusion of the interview, and that's it.
All
How you
right.
feel though? You feel good?
I feel good. This feels so nice. You know me,
Yeah.
I'm a yapper, so this
Right.
felt good.
Right. Well, we out.
Bye.